Happy Halloween, boys and girls, and welcome to another edition of Going to Bed with Mike and Steve. I'm Mike.
And I'm Steve.
And we are currently in the middle of reading R.L. Stine's Goosebumps, number 42, Egg Monsters from Mars.
Oh, boy.
Let's continue, shall we?
Yes.
Chapter 26. Yeah, we're not even in the middle. We're coming up on the epic conclusion, Steve. Just a couple more chapters, and we're going to find out what fate befalls
in the midst of conflict.
Dana. I was so desperate to get Dad's attention, I nearly forgot about the egg creatures.
What?
How does that happen?
It's been like 2 minutes, and there are, 3 dozen of them?
36. Now I turned from the window to find them scattered around the room. They stood still as statues. They didn't bounce or quiver. They all seemed to be staring at me. Dr. Dre had turned off all the lights except for a tiny, dim bulb in the ceiling. The little egg blobs appeared pale and gray in the dim light. I felt a chill at the back of my neck. Was it... It was Dr. Dre breathing on me.
Huh, weird.
Was it safe to go to sleep in the same room with them? I suddenly felt exhausted, so tired that all my muscles ached.
Didn't he already sleep,
Yeah,
though?
he already fell asleep, or passed out, or whatever, so, I mean...
He's okay thus far.
You know that you're at least safe for 10 minutes or so. I needed sleep. I knew I had to rest so I could be alert and sharp tomorrow. Alert and sharp so I could find a way to escape. But if I fell asleep, what would the egg creatures do? Would they leave me alone? Would they sleep too? Or would they try to harm me in some way? Were they good? Were they evil? Were they intelligent at all? I had no way of knowing!
They'll take good care of you.
I only knew I couldn't stay awake much longer. I dropped down to the floor and curled up in the corner. I tried to stay warm by tucking myself into a ball. But it didn't help. The cold swept over me, my nose was frozen, my ears were numb, my earlobes cracked right off like little pieces of rock candy. I stuck them in my mouth to warm them up, and they turned into a gooey, sloppy mess. I accidentally swallowed one. Oops. Looks like I only got one earlobe now, I said.
Oh, well.
My chin cracked and dropped off of my face right into my lap.
Low.
My tongue... lapped down, flopping against my chest in the cold breeze. It swung back and forth, and then accidentally stuck to the metal wall.
And it ripped right off.
I tried to pull away, but it ripped right off. Blood spurted everywhere.
And froze.
And froze. I looked like oh shit, Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. He had all the tentacles, except they were bloody, frozen, icicle tentacles coming out of my face. Like, what's that fucking weird fruit that's yellow? And it kind of looks like that. It's like...
It's not
Dragon fruit? I don't know. No, isn't dragon fruit like a little... It's a little spiky thing.
Yeah,
but there's one that's
yeah.
like... It's like if tentacle porn was edible. My nose was frozen, my ears were numb, my glasses were frozen to my face. Even wrapped up tightly, I couldn't stop shaking. I'm going to freeze to death, I realized. When Dr. Gray comes back tomorrow morning, he'll find me on the floor, a solid lump of ice. I gazed at the egg creatures. They stared back at me in
He's
the
gonna walk and be
dim
like,
light.
oh, huh, that was unforeseeable. Oh, dang. Oop, well,
That's why I'm not a real scientist. People, he pulls out a little notepad. People equals not frozen. Do not freeze the people.
We learned something today. I gotta report these findings.
To the Institute.
They'll be so grateful.
I gazed at the egg creatures. They stared back at me in the dim light. Silence. Such heavy silence in the room that I wanted to scream. Aren't you cold? I cried out to them. My voice came out hoarse, weak from all the screaming I had done. Aren't you freezing to death? How can you guys stand it? Of course they didn't reply. Dana, you're totally losing it, I scolded myself out loud.
Yeah. Dana! Get snapped to it.
I was trying to talk to a bunch of egg lumps from another planet. Did I really expect them to answer me?
Yes.
They stared back in silence. None of them quivered. None of them moved. Their little dark eyes glowed in the dim light from the ceiling. Maybe they're asleep, I thought. Maybe they sleep with their eyes open. That's why they're not moving. I knew a dude who slept with his eyes open once.
So
I went to summer camp with him, but it wasn't even all the way open. It's kind of like half open. So
It's like resting and just
like
kind of staring.
Staring at you. Almost looks more
like,
dead, you know? Just
hello?
like, yeah, it's
You
hard to
okay?
sleep when you got somebody staring at you. That's why they've stopped bouncing. They're sound asleep. That made me feel a little better. I tucked myself into a tighter ball and I tried to fall asleep too. If only I could stop shivering. I closed my eyes and silently repeated the word, sleep, sleep, sleep.
That'll help. Sleep, go to sleep. Hey, if you ever go to, you're gonna be like, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. That's obviously gonna help you go to sleep.
Okay, if I fall asleep right now, I can get 6 hours, 47 minutes, 32 seconds worth of sleep. Okay, now if I fell asleep, 6 hours, 32 minutes, and 28 seconds worth
Now
of sleep.
if I fell asleep, I get 3 hours and 6 minutes.
Sleep.
I gotta sleep.
It didn't help.
Oh, really?
And when I opened my eyes, I saw the egg creatures start to move. I was wrong. They weren't asleep. They were wide awake, and they were all moving together, all moving at once, coming to get me. Chapter 27. Coming to get me a birthday cake!
Oh, wow!
Dana got up.
This
It was
is
such a surprise.
My parents put this to have the best birthday ever.
I had almost forgotten. It was my birthday, the day after my sister's.
These were all puppets that my parents created. It was all fake.
It was all a fun surprise because they knew that I wanted to be a scientist.
Dr.
Happy
Greg,
birthday!
he gave me some beats.
Here's a pair of my Dre Beats. Well, they're not the consumer model. They were the beta model. They don't
Kind
work
of the
quite
crappy
as well.
beta model.
You plug it in, you're
know.
gonna get yourself a shock every time you plug it into your iPhone. But hey, they work almost as good.
Don't listen too long in them. Your ears, you'll go deaf.
Yeah, you'll probably go deaf. There's a reason we didn't put these ones on the shelf, but you can at least walk around pretending like you got a cool pair
So
of
happy
Dre
birthday
Beats.
or whatever.
Happy birthday, whatever. The end. Chapter 27. Oh, a low moan escaped from my throat. I was already shaking all over from the cold. But now my entire body shuddered from fear. The egg creatures moved with surprising speed. They were bunching together in the center of the room, pressing into each other, making wet smacking sounds. Ew. Steve just drooled onto the book.
I was making some intense
I've had this
sounds.
book since 1995, and it managed to survive up until now. Steve's nasty drool dribbling all over the pages. Gross.
Left my mark.
The next time we're reading one of your books, I'm just gonna sneeze and wipe my ass with it. I tried to climb to my feet, but my legs
That's
didn't
not
work. They say that your ass is cleaner than your mouth. That's what they say. That's what I heard that from a scientist. It might have been Dr. Dre. They were bunching together in the center of the room, pressing into each other, making wet smacking sounds. I tried to climb to my feet, but my legs didn't work. My knees bent like rubber, and I landed back on the floor. I pressed back into the corner and watched them move. They slapped up against each other, loud, wet slaps. There, I'll move the book way over here so you can make your nasty, wet, slappy sounds.
Perfect.
At least it didn't get all over the book. My legs, sure, but not the book. My knees bent like rubber, and I landed back on the floor. I pressed back into the corner and watched them move. They slapped up against each other, loud, wet slaps. That's when I realized they weren't coming for me. They were mating.
Oh.
Dr. Dre poked his head in, and they will mate for hours. Get ready, and I'd put on a raincoat if you have one if I were you.
You might even be a pot.
Yeah. They're blind as bats. Once they start humping, they don't stop humping until they're done. They don't care what they're humping, be it a chair or a young boy named Dana. Have fun! They slapped up against each other, loud, wet slaps, and as they pushed together, they rolled forward, rolled towards me. What are you doing? I cried in a high, shrill voice. What are you gonna do to me? They didn't reply, on account of the fact that, as established previously, I cannot verbally communicate with these creatures. The wet smacks echoed through the room as the eggy creatures threw themselves into each other. Leave me alone, I shrieked. Once again, I tried to stand. I made it to my knees, but I was trembling too hard to balance on 2 feet. Leave me alone, please. I'll help you guys escape too, I promise. Really, I'll help you escape tomorrow. Just let me make it through the night. They didn't seem to understand. Again,
Oh, really?
as previously established I do not have the capability of verbally communicating with these egg monsters from Mars.
With hand signals and triangles.
They didn't even seem to hear me. What are they doing, I ask myself. I mean, maybe they say, come, roll over me, please. The only means of escape is to engulf me in your eggy goo.
Yes.
They're doing their best to decipher what the fuck you're saying, just like you're trying to decipher what the fuck they're doing. Yeah. What are they doing, I asked myself, watching them creep forward. Why are they doing this?
We don't know.
They had waited until I nearly fell asleep, I realized. That means they wanted to catch me off guard, that they wanted to sneak up on me.
Oh no.
Maybe they were about to do something I wasn't going to like. Something I wasn't going to like at all. I pressed my back against the wall. The egg creatures moved quickly now, pale in the gray light. Squinting hard at them, I realized to my horror that they had all stuck themselves together. He realized that to his... Didn't it already say that that's what they were doing? All moving together, all moving at once.
They're kind of like moving together, but now they're sticking to one another.
Gotcha, so they're turning into one big egg monster, perhaps.
Yes, I think.
I pressed my back against the wall. They waited till I fell asleep to sneak up on me, squinting hard at them. I realized to my horror that they had all stuck themselves together. They were no longer dozens of little egg creatures. Now they had joined together to form one enormous egg creature.
They did it. We were right. We're so smart.
I was staring at a big quivering wall of egg. A wall so big it nearly covered the floor of the room. A wall that was rolling toward me, rolling to get me. Whoa! Please, whoa! I choked out. I knew I should climb to my feet. I knew I should try to run. But where could I run? How could I escape from this huge solid egg wall? I couldn't. So I just laid there and watched it come, too frozen to move.
Oh well.
Oh, I moaned as the front of the wall of eggs rose up over my shoes. It was moving so fast, crawling somehow, crawling over me. The egg wall swept over my shoes, over the legs of my jeans, over my waist. I lay there helpless as it swept over me, too frozen, helpless as it poured over me, trapping me beneath it, smothering me.
Oh. He seems screwed once again.
He does. Then I woke up and it was all a dream.
Woo!
Well, that's all we have time for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, Steve.
Good night, Mike. Good night, everyone.